Hello everyone! Today we're gonna take a look at the mod Skaven Esoterica by Stratovarius, which adds some of the most ridiculous Skaven units, and I mean that in the best possible way. So if you're the kind of person who thinks that Skaven units are too basic, then this is absolutely for you. So the mod adds 14 new units, and one should have really been left out, not because I dislike a specific one, but 13 units would have been thematically perfect. So let's start with the Crackback Kill Squad, which is some really elite Eshin infantry units that comes with claws and spears. Claws for anti-infantry, spears for anti-large. And they have really good stats with great AP and armor sundering on contact. Luckily, there's only 13 entities in each unit, so they're kinda like aspiring champions for Skaven. And keeping with the Clan Eshin theme, kinda, there's also a new kind of gutter on the unit with the Warp Runners. Although they don't have stock or vanguard, even though the unit card description says so. So they're runners in name only, and instead of normal sling bullets, they shoot some kind of purple bullet that does better AP and shield breaker. But they also have a lot fewer entities than normal runners, so I'm not sure if they do more damage or not. So it's a potentially cool unit, but it feels like some abilities are missing from it. They also got some cavalry with the Bubonic Rider, which I like a lot. It's a unit of plague monks riding some kind of weird rat boar that could only come from a Molder lab, and they're a great amalgamation of the two clans. Because it's a decently fast flanking Molder monster unit that debuffs the crap out of enemies it gets into with poisons, slime trail, aura of pestilence to lower damage, attack and speed, but it also buffs Skaven units with leadership and attack around it, so it's got some good utility and some good flanking capabilities. But that's not the only cav they get. They also get the Claws of Ikit, and it's straight up just Warlock Engineers riding Crushers of Khorne. They have gotten some Clan Morse detail, I guess, but let's be honest, it's Blood Crushers of Khorne, and they don't have the same nice look and flavor, not literally, as the Bubonicus Riders, but they're a good anti-infantry cav unit. They also get Poxy Gorers, and they're just Croxy Gorers wearing the skin of rat ogres, and I don't know how these would be justified in the lore. Maybe they're just Croxy Gorers undercover and they're eating rats while no one is looking, or the Skaven knows about it and they're just doing good work in combat, so they're just ignoring it. Either way, I would actually watch that show. But they are Croxy Gorers and they do Croxy Gore things. And next we got one of my favorite looking models in this mod, the Doomwalker. And they're really cool looking spider tanks, and they look like they're straight from Ikit's personal lab. And they come with 3 different armaments. The base one has some kind of warpstone cannon. The Rattling cannon has a long range machine gun with suppression that does crazy damage, but accuracy isn't that great. And the Giant Killer has a warp lightning cannon with anti-large. But besides their big weapons, they're also really good in combat, especially if they get some infantry blobbing around them, because they have a vortex triggering around them every 15 seconds while they're in melee. But that's not the only tanks they have. They also have the Man Crushers, and they're just straight up tanks. Huge armor, but not great in melee. But they come with 2 different cannons. The base one shoots warp lightning shots, while the Deathfire variant shoots 7 salvos of Plague Claw catapult shots, so it can devastate infantry. And the Deathfire variant also has a bound lesser doom bolt for some reason, so they can also do a bit of single entity damage. And finally we have the airforce with the Doom gunships, which are just Skavenified gyrocopters. And first of all, they look beautifully Skaven, because they look like they don't have any business working, and should either explode or just fall out of the sky. But they work somehow anyway, with duct tape and warpstone. But they got some machine guns up front, and 2 sets of bombs. Gyrocopter bombs, which are just stolen from the dwarves, and the warpstone bombs, which are probably the same thing but improved with warpstone. And these Skaveny gyrocopters are just awesome, and I love them. But they didn't stop there, because they also ripped off the Gyro Bomber with their Doom Bomber, which also looks like it should be falling apart. But this thing is insane. It's also stolen some dwarf bombs, but they went the extra mile and stole the Skyhammer bombs. It also has the Warpstone bombs, and a Bound Scourge and Brass Orbs. And that's just the bombardments. It also has missiles that it just casually shoots in 360 degrees while moving. So it's pretty nuts. But if you thought that was their magnum opus when it comes to stealing aircraft ideas from the dwarves, then you need to think bigger. Have you heard of the Thunder Barge? Because the Skaven has, and they built the Warp Zeppelin. And it's a flying war crime. It's got a bunch of warp bombs, it shoots missiles that does really good damage, and it can actually cast warp lightnings, which will use your Winds of Magic pool, but it compensates by having Arcane Conduit, so it kinda generates its own magic. And if you park your artillery or weapon teams below it, it will buff their accuracy and reload skill as well. So this thing can just annihilate parts of an army by itself if it wants to. And that's all of them. And there's some really fun units in this pack. The balance can be a little bit all over the place, but they are so much fun. So if you don't mind some of that, then I'll leave a link to the mod in the description. But that's all for today, so thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, do all the YouTubey things, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!